A reading from the Gospel of Luke. Jesus said to the Pharisees, "There was a rich man who dressed in purple garments and fine linen and dined sumptuously each day. And lying at his door was a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who would gladly have eaten his fill of the scraps that fell from the rich man's table. Dogs even used to come and lick his sores. When the poor man died, he was carried away by angels to the bosom of Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried, and from the netherworld, where he was in torment, he raised his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus at his side. And he cried out, 'Father Abraham, have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am suffering torment in these flames.' Abraham replied, 'My child, remember that you received what was good during your lifetime, while Lazarus likewise received what was bad. But now he is comforted here, whereas you are tormented. Moreover, between us and you a great chasm is established to prevent anyone from crossing who might wish to go from our side to yours, or from your side to ours.' He said, 'Then I beg you, Father, send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them lest they too come to this place of torment.' But Abraham replied, 'They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them.' He said, 'Oh no, Father Abraham, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent.' Then Abraham said, 'If they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded if someone should rise from the dead.'" Although today's gospel starts with Jesus speaking to the Pharisees, it is very clearly Luke's community speaking to those of mainstream Judaism. And by the time you get to the end of the passage, we hear Luke speaking directly to them when it says, "If they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded if someone should rise from the dead." When you have Jesus talking about rising from the dead, when no one at the time had any inkling that Jesus would die and then rise in 3 days, it's a dead giveaway that this would most likely not be something that Jesus said on earth. Talking about dying and rising from the dead, however, would be something that Jewish Christians, as well as mainstream Jews in the year 85 AD, would know about via oral tradition. As a result, a parable like this would be more about what's going on in the year 85 rather than during Jesus' public ministry around the year 30. In other words, Jesus is telling this parable directly to Luke's community and indirectly to those in opposition to them, i.e., mainstream Judaism. So what is Jesus telling Luke's community through this parable? He's basically saying that those among mainstream Judaism are a lost cause. No matter what the Jewish Christians will say to try and convince them that Jesus is the Messiah foretold in the Hebrew Scriptures, they'll never change their mind. Even if Jesus were to appear to them face to face and tell them that he is the Messiah, they will not believe. In other words, Luke is telling the community that they are essentially at an impasse with their family and friends who are part of mainstream Judaism. It's a lost cause. It's not worth their time anymore. And as history shows, Luke is 100% correct. After all, a decade later, Jewish Christians are expelled from the synagogues, as made evident in John's Gospel, therefore officially excommunicating them from mainstream Judaism altogether. When I read what Luke's community is going through when reading this parable, it's very much applicable to our present-day situation. There are people in our present-day world who, even if you were to have Jesus appear to them and tell them to their face that he is the Messiah, they won't believe it. We receive so much persecution in our own day for what we believe because it's so at odds with the way society works. But even more so in the secular realm, like politics, we can often be placed under such volatile disagreements that the argument is essentially over before it starts. So what can we get from today's gospel is we should know when an argument is over before it starts. Or we should know when we are at an impasse with another person. And we should know when it's time to move on.